Welcome back. We're in lesson 12 today, and the first thing we're going to talk about is symbols of inclusion. We have various symbols of inclusion. The one that we are the most familiar with, that we've used the most, is the parenthesis. And that looks like this. You have one on the front and you have one on the back, and we know we're supposed to do whatever is inside first. There are other symbols of inclusion that mean the same thing. We have square brackets. We have absolute value brackets. And then we have curly brackets. My curly brackets are just kind of okay. Anyway, what matters is the order in which they occur in the sentence. We always start with the innermost set of inclusion brackets that we have. So for instance, if we had curly bracket and then a set of parentheses and minus another set of parentheses, but those were within this bracket right here, right? And let's say we would actually do whatever was in here first and then whatever was in here second. Then we would do what was the answer there, the resulting there. Then we would do whatever was within the curly bracket over here. Okay, so it goes from the middle to the outside. It's like a degree. It's in varying degrees. You do the part that's separated the most first, and then you work outward. So for instance, let's get an example problem. Let me, first of all, write this down. Inclusion symbols. Okay, make all of that a quick note of that. So you have parentheses. If I can get my pen to write, I still need to replace the tip. It does better whenever I just do cursive. Parenthesis, and then this is called the square bracket. Then you have the absolute value, and then you have what we just simply call our curly bracket. Those are the most used symbol of inclusion that you will have. Okay, so those ones you're going to use most of the time. So go ahead and write those down. If you haven't already gotten all those down, pause the video. I'm going to clear the page. All right, so let's move on to example A. Example A says that we could say 4 plus 3 times 2. If we didn't have any inclusion brackets at all, we know PEMDAS tells us to do multiplication first, so that would be 4 plus 6 would equal 10, right? Pretty straightforward. However, we could use inclusion brackets for the same problem, and we could do this first. Parenthesis says, I want to add this first and then multiply it by 2. 4 plus 3 is 7 times 2. Our answer would then be 14. That's why we have this set of rules, so that we can do things in different orders if we need to, for whatever reason. So this could be a set of square brackets. It could be a set of curly brackets. But it's typically going to be parentheses, because parentheses are, they're just the most commonly used. They're the easiest to get to on the keyboard, and they just seem to make the most sense. Most people use these a lot. Now, when people use parentheses here and parentheses in another spot, and they want to keep those things together and do before something else is done, then they'll encapsulate this with some brackets, and we'll show you some of those in just a little bit, just a little later on. Okay, so let's look at example 12.1. we have a problem to simplify. So we have 4 times 3 plus 2 minus 5 times 6 minus 3. Now, we have multiplication here and multiplication here, but we have something within this parenthesis that needs to happen first. So we do our parenthesis first, as PEMDAS tells us. PEMDAS. PEMDAS. So parenthesis first means this is going to be 4 times 5 minus 5 times 3. Okay, 6 minus 3 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20, minus 5 times 3, which is 15. So that equals 5. Right? According to the book, I got that right. Yay! So let's do example 12.2. Example 12.2 is negative 3 times 2 minus 3 plus 5, close parenthesis, minus 6, open parenthesis, 4 plus 2, close parenthesis, that's 2, minus 3. Okay, so if we do what's in the parenthesis first, in the order that we see it, 2 minus 3 is going to be negative 1 plus 5. So it's going to be negative 3 and let's see, negative 1 plus 5 is going to be 4. Minus 6 times 4 plus 2, that's another 6, minus 3. Now we know that when we have a whole number next to a parenthesis, that's multiplication, so we do that next. So negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Negative 6 times 6 is negative 36. And then we have a negative 3. So this is going to be negative 48, 49, 50, negative 51. That's our answer. And the book agrees. Pretty easy so far. All right, so let's do 12.3. I'm going to let you guys do that. Here's the problem. You're going to have to simplify. Ooh, this one's a doozy. Negative 2, open parenthesis. And you can just follow along. I'm not going to just say every single word here because you guys can see. You have eyeballs, hopefully, in your head. If you don't have eyeballs that work, I'm not sure why you're watching my video, unless you're just listening to the sound of my beautiful voice speaking over the airwaves. Thank you, by the way, if that's what you're doing. So anyway, here's the problem. And I'm going to let you pause the video, solve the problem, and then come back and press play and see if you and I got the same answer. And if you got the same answer I did, then that means you did it correctly, because I'm going to check my answer against the book, which means I know it's right. That and because I know PEMDAS. So go ahead and solve it for me. All right, through the magic of video, we have come back with the correct answer, and the correct answer is negative 61. If you got a negative 61, congratulations, that is the right answer. If you did not get a negative 61, let's walk through it. So we had a parenthesis which said negative 3 minus 3. That's negative 6. So I said negative 2, which was on the outside, times negative 6. Then we had another parenthesis right next to it that was negative 2 minus 4. Well, that's another negative 6. So it's negative 2 times negative 6 times negative 6. Then we had a minus sign. I brought that down. Negative 3 minus 2, that's a negative 5. And then we had plus 3 and 4 minus times 4 minus 2, which was 2. So plus 3 times 2. Now, remember, when you have a minus in between parentheses, you can put a negative 1 in its place to simplify the process for you. So it's the opposite of a negative 5, or negative 1 times negative 5, which is a positive 5 right here. Okay, I just put that negative 1 in to help me see that. It's a way to help you. You just drop it in here, and then you do the multiplication. So negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36, right? Because the same signs equal a positive. Well, then you have a negative 2 times a positive 36. So that's going to be negative 72. All right, now here we had that negative, that opposite of a negative 5. So negative 1 times negative 5 is the positive 5, right? And then positive 3 times 2 is positive 6. So we brought that down as well. So negative 72 plus 5 plus 6 is going to be negative 61. And the way I did that in my head was I said positive 5, positive 6 is a positive 11, and I took 1 from 2, made that a 1, 1 from the 7, made that a 6, and did that mentally. I didn't have to whip out my calculator. Little tricks like that will help you as you go through. All right, so if you got that right, congratulations. Let's move on to the next one. You should have everything written down by now. We're going to do problem 12.4. And this is a division problem. You can go ahead and start copying this problem down on your paper. All right, there we go. So the first thing we do is what? We attack the parentheses. Do those first. So let's do that. First step, we're going to have negative 5 and positive 3. So that's going to be negative 2. And then we have a negative 5 and a positive 9. That's going to be a positive 4. Okay. 4 minus 2, that's going to be a 2. All right, so there is a start. Now we're going to do the multiplication. 5 times negative 2, that's going to be negative 10. 7 times 4 is 28. Plus 2, all over. That's 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 5, that's 10. Okay, so now notice we do have a 10 here. We can't factor this out because this is a addition. So it's the entire value together. So it's not a factor, so you can't get rid of it. So you have to complete the problem. So negative 10 plus 28, that's going to be 18 plus 2 is 20. So 20 over 10, that's going to reduce to 2 over 1, which is just 2. Okay, that's how you would solve one of those. All right then, let's move on. We have one more problem like that, and I'm going to allow you guys to do it yourself. 12.5. Let me write it out for you. It's not terribly long. That's 2. And that is all over. All right, so I'm going to allow you to pause the video, work this problem, and then come back and press play and see if you got the same answer I did. All right, here we go. Through the magic of video, let's see what we got. So first of all, I did my parentheses here. 4 minus 2, that would be 2. So negative 3 times 2 would be negative 6, okay? And then for this set, I had the opposite of the negative 5. So I said plus negative 1 times negative 5, which gave me a positive 5. So negative 6 plus 5 is a negative 1. On the bottom, I said 3 times a negative 3 is a negative 9, but I have this negative in front of it, so I put in my negative 1 plus my negative 1. So 4 plus negative 1 times negative 9, that'd be 4 plus positive 9, right? that's going to give me 13. So negative 1 over 13, or if you wrote negative 1 over 13, both of those are going to be correct. Congratulations. And that's all I have for lesson 12. If you have any questions, feel free to message me and I'll respond as soon as I see them. All right, I will see you in lesson 13.